what's up, Sports Post Podcast? This is Jag Manget. You guys know me off Google Podcast, Castbox, Spotify, jagmanget.com, YouTube, you name it, I'm there. So last night, I went ahead and did a podcast on KD is no longer the guy. He's just a guy. So I'll divulge in that further, meaning that he directly recruited LaMarcus Aldridge. And most of you are probably thinking like, oh, LeBron James did the same thing. I'm not saying LeBron James is the guy. I didn't say that. I'm saying Kevin Durant is no longer the guy. Because if you guys remember, and most of you guys do, I said the same thing about LeBron James when he did the Miami Heat decision and whatnot and recruited everybody. You know, he did all that. And I'm sure Lakers recruiting Andre Drummond was whatever. But the bottom line is the fact that Kevin Durant, with all his talent, went ahead and not only joined forces with Steph and Clay and Draymond and won two right there, but then he went ahead and did the same thing in Brooklyn. And now you're recruiting all stars. Mind you, they were all stars a while ago, but still, you did that. So, my opinion, and he's very sensitive. There's a altercation, conversation, dialogue, whatever you want to call it, between him and Michael Rappaport. So, if you guys haven't seen it, and I can't say it because there's a lot of curse words, I don't I don't do curse words on this program, but there's a lot of curse words, and it's just he's very sensitive. He's very insecure, and he's so insecure about people hating him. It bothers him to his core. So if he didn't care, then why would he respond to Michael Rappaport? Because he does care. He cares about his image, and quite frankly, his legacy is totally, completely tarnished. Because he was never able to lead a team himself. He needed that help. He couldn't do it by himself. No way. So he needed somebody to help him win his third ring, his first ring, his second ring, now his third ring. It's if you want to be labeled as the best player in the world, then to me, the best player in the world is still Michael Jordan because he was 6 for 6 in NBA Finals. Then it's Kobe Bryant. But I think greatest of all time is Kobe Bryant because I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. However, bottom line is the fact that I just don't see Kevin Durant as the best player in the world anymore because clearly he needs help. If he was the best, he wouldn't need anyone's help. I can go on and on and on and on. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. The entire world, NBA world, basketball world, sports world, says the exact same thing. You have all this talent. You were supposed to be the savior. You're supposed to be like the basketball, like finesse god. That you have all this talent. You don't need anyone, and all of a sudden you pull this kind of crap. You could have been the first player to lead a team in OKC to actually win and bring a title to OKC, yet you chose to leave. So it just and you're gonna do the same thing in Brooklyn. Like you're gonna lead a team there, or not even lead a team because clearly you're not even the best player on the team. James Harden is, and don't get me started on that guy. He pulled a really stupid move by gaining all this weight, and uh, not showing up for a training camp and yada yada yada, and pretty much forcing a trade. And when you and then when you forced the trade and it all went your way, you lost all this way. You're playing like unbelievably. So clearly you weren't trying in Houston the final year because Kyrie and KD were in your ear, and we all know how that went. So yeah, it's pretty sad state of affairs when all these top guys who think they're the best player in the world clearly are not. So it is what it is. To tonight's games, let's just switch gears and talk about the NHL. Tonight's games, you got Tampa Bay, and then you have um, Washington Washington Capitals. Now they're hot. They are actually in the top spot to surpass Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay has lost their last two. They're playing tonight. They're playing Columbus. I believe they're playing Columbus, but Columbus, they're just how they are. So it should be a pretty easy win for Tampa Bay, but we never know. Capitals are in action tonight. I believe they play the Rangers. Uh, Panthers are in action tonight. I believe they play Detroit. Detroit, I would not bet against Detroit. Detroit does fairly well in facing off with the top team, so I would bet my money on Detroit. Once again, don't take my advice. This is just me talking here. So it just, bottom line, I think Detroit's going to win. Switching over to the NBA, and the NBA, we have a little bit of action tonight. Not that many games, but Magic versus the Clippers. Clippers are red hot, and they just picked up Rajon Rondo. They gave up Lou Williams and a couple picks, but they've won their last 6 games, and they're the top 3-point shooting team in the league. So they are red hot. They're facing Magic, which is nothing. So I'd be curious as to how Rondo's going to gel with that team. Put money on it that it makes them a good team, but when it comes push comes to shove, like they beat the Bucks by 24 points last night, I think it was. That's insane. So Clippers, they're on a whole new level right now. So look out for those guys. Andre Drummond recently acquired Laker. It will be facing off and making his debut tomorrow night when they face the Bucks. So tonight, the matchup that I really want to see is Denver Nuggets taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, 76ers are without Joel Embiid due to injury, and I was kind of looking forward to this MVP versus MVP, center versus center, Joker versus Embiid, but Embiid is out and Joker is still playing on a high level. LeBron's out, so the only competition for MVP should be James Harden or the Joker. And because James Harden pulled that kind of crap where he cried like a little baby and said, "Hey, I want to trade to Brooklyn," I thought that was pretty stupid, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, okay, you got your way, but I can guarantee you he's not going to be MVP. It's not going to work in his favor because he pulled that stuff. And if you don't believe me, just ask Derrick Rose and LeBron James. LeBron James left from Cleveland to Miami in 2010 and coincidentally was not the MVP. So I know you claim you're the MVP, but it's not going to happen. So Joker is the MVP for the NBA season 2020 and 2021. That's just pretty much what it is. So we have a lot of games, like I said, and it's kind of like, okay, well, basically, Brooklyn Nets have one more spot on their roster, and they have just announced who they will sign in that roster. Stay tuned on the podcast, and I will reveal it on the podcast. Once again, this is Jag Mangit for the Sports Post Podcast, March 30th, 2021.